And so the king ordered his men into battle, and even though he was no longer acting in their best interest, they followed obediently. But what if they didn't? What if they just refused? What if selfish leaders got no support? What if people had the courage to stand up when something wasn't right? What if the government didn't just serve a lucky few? What if it was designed and run for all the people, no matter what race, color, or creed? What if we didn't put up with anything less? What if?
Good morning. How are you?
Cool.
So, can we talk about how you got here?
Yeah, you think I got a funny looking face? I just thought it was funny.
Hey kids, I'm telling you, go right here.
Man, we ain't doing nothing.
Go right here before I'm called cops.
So, you didn't do anything?
Nope.
Then what's all this?
Depends on who's reading it, I guess.
Well, looks broken. Skateboarding, huh?
Yes.
Is this the first time you've hurt yourself?
No, I get hurt all the time.
At home?
At home? He hurt himself skateboarding at the park.
Okay, ma'am. I'm gonna have a counselor come in and speak with you.
A counselor? For what? He's okay.
Well, I done told you them tricks were gonna put you in the hospital.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, too. A nurse will be in a few minutes to help you check out.
What's up?
That doctor thought I did this to him.
How you doing?
Hi.
It ain't fair.
Fair has nothing to do with this. This is about you taking responsibility for your actions. Look, I know so many young men just like you that didn't do anything. And yet, most of them are in prison.
You don't know me. I ain't going to no prison.
If you don't want to end up in prison, you're going to have to get some new priorities and probably some new friends, too. Look, you're not getting any younger. You need to get an education so you can get a good job.
Like you just like everybody else. You think you see, but you don't see. You see what you want to see.
I see what's in this folder. It shows me what you've been doing.
I ain't doing nothing.
I am not doing anything. Stop!
I ain't doing nothing.
I'm not doing anything. And yes, you were. Get to the timeout chair. Now, please. I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
Okay, we're just about ready to get on this evening with this particular program. I want to thank everybody that's listening on YouTube. And those of you who are listening on Facebook or watching on Facebook, I am your teacher for this evening, Alonzo Richard Fleming. And I was inspired today to deal with a subject that I believe is very pertinent to us as citizens of this United States. It is the election. And I want to deal with who speaks for black men and why black men are voting for Trump. Now, before I get going on this program this evening, I want to just kind of lay out something. Number one, I am not a political person at all. I consider myself a spiritual man who understands his civic duties. And as part of his civic duties, I want to speak to this issue concerning the election that is coming up in about 14 or 18 days or so. So my subject is, so if I don't come across as politically savvy or have a full grasp of all the issues surrounding the politics that we are encountering right now in the country, you will forgive me for that, because like I said, I'm just not a political person as such. But I do have an opinion. I do think, I read, and I am very active in this political environment that we are in. So my subject for this evening is who speaks for black men and why we're voting Trump. Who speaks for black men and why we're voting Trump. And I want to say also at the beginning that when I say why we're voting Trump or we are voting Trump, I'm identifying with black men. I'm not saying who I am going to vote for, who I'm not going to vote for, but there's a growing number of black men, surprising to the Democrats, that are voting for Trump. And so I'm simply identifying, putting myself in the shoes that are already standing, whether I put myself in them or not. I'm in those shoes as a black man. So what I'm going to try to do is give you my thoughts and then try to take questions. I believe we are able to log in and take questions if you go to the StreamYard app. You can go into the chat room and there's some way that you can literally log on and take questions. I can shoot you this link. So I played a video, a couple of videos to start it out. One had to do with supporting government that's for all the people. And the other one had to do with the biases that black men from the cradle to the grave endure. And so I wanted to set you up with those videos to help you to understand the psychology, be it what it is that I as a black man am coming from, having spent my entire life in this country. There is a voice that speaks to the hearts of Black men. It speaks of righteousness, and this voice speaks of love. It speaks of manhood. It speaks of responsibility and maturity. This voice that I speak of is among us, and we hear it clearly. Up to now, the voice has not been considered into the conversation, though it is the voice of consensus and trustworthiness among us as Black men. This voice that I'm about to share with you as I tell you why Black men are in increasing numbers voting for Trump. In the current political dynamics of the nation, the Democrats seem bent on ridiculing us, trying to scare us into submission, bullying us, and finally trying to bribe us with morsels into voting for their candidate. They have dug up their traditional mouthpieces to herd Black men back into the Democratic fold, but still the numbers grow in favor of Donald Trump. Democrats have tried almost everything except close their mouths, open their ears, and sit down in a respectful manner with Black men and listen for a change to what we think and what we have to say. While living in this hostile environment called America, Black men have been targeted from the cradle to the grave with heavy doses of self-doubt, discrimination, murder, and forces of suppression for even thinking we could put together a coherent thought worthy of serious consideration. And it has been intensive and unrelenting. The heavy doses of suppression has come from every institution, whether a Democrat or a Republican president or Congress or mayor or city council and school board, a bank or a credit union or corporation, and even some Black women, which partly account for the current gender war waging among our young people, have participated in this unrelenting doses of submission or suppression toward Black men. And it doesn't matter if the person is white or Black or otherwise that's in power. The suppression and the unrelenting heavy doses of suppression are ever present to the mind of Black men. The onslaught has been so apologetic and dismissive that President Joe Biden was comfortable enough to quip that if we didn't vote for him, we were not Black. How disrespectful can it get? In the current election, let's take a look at some things. I want to show you a short video to set this in motion so that you can get a sense of what I'm about to say.
You're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is, putting women down? That's not acceptable.
So you see, President Obama, or former President Obama, has taken it upon himself to scold Black men for even considering Trump or another candidate. And it literally reveals those default positions and attitudes that the Democrats take towards black men. It is our responsibility, they quip, for voting for them, regardless of what they say or do. So in the video, President Obama didn't say we. He did not identify with us. He said you. He did not speak to black men as a black man, suffering some of the same ills that black men as a group suffer in the nation. He said you, signifying that he does not identify with us, but sees himself separate from black men as a group. He appeared to exacerbate the gender war by accusing us of some toxic masculinity for considering another candidate. He never showed any empathy or attempt to communicate with us as men, but instead took the posture of asking us, quote, "Negro, who told you to think about voting Republican? When I want you to have a thought, I will give it to you." This is the posture that the Democrats have taken towards black people in general and black men in particular. Now, I want to say that I did vote for President Obama twice, and I still love the man. President Obama couldn't even say, however, black man when he had the power to do something. Now he's coming to preach to us. But when he was president, he couldn't even say the words black man. For example, in February 2012, Trayvon Martin was killed. Black men took a sigh of relief across the nation when President Obama said Trayvon could have been his own son. But it was short-lived when he had to apologize for relating Trayvon Martin to his own son. Black men were concerned, but he could not relate. He did not have the autonomy, though he was president of the United States, and a black man say that Trayvon Martin could have been his own son. He had to walk that back. In May of 2020, now he was not president, but he still carries a lot of weight with us. George Floyd was brutally murdered in the face of the entire planet. And black men were deeply concerned about the ongoing slaughter of black men by law enforcement. But President Obama was silent on the matter when he had power to influence it. When Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick in my hometown of Detroit was convicted for a host of federal crimes, even though the black preachers of Detroit and black civil rights leaders of Detroit and big businessmen of Detroit all had their hands in the pot, in the money basket, no one went to prison except Kwame. He was sentenced to 28 years in prison. I see you in there, Sybil. I want you to just listen to me and you will get the point of what I'm saying by the time I'm finished. He was sentenced to 28 years in prison, more than a murderer would get. Kwame Kilpatrick was sentenced. Those of us who knew the injustice of the matter in Detroit wrote letters to the president, thinking surely President Obama, the black president, knowing how black men are given so much harsher prison sentences and having the power to do something, surely he would pardon Kwame Kilpatrick, or at least reduce the sentence that he had gotten. But like the old gospel song says, that the old folks used to sing in church, he opened not his mouth and breathed not a word. Kwame languished in prison a little over 7 years before it was Donald Trump who pardoned him. Democrats, it's time for you to give an account for your behavior over the last 60 or so years that we have voted at a clip of 90% for you. When the Great Recession of 2008 hit, $700 billion were allocated and given to the banks and those who caused the housing crisis of 2008. I and a partner had a thriving school, grossing almost $1.5 million a year. But the little money that went to small businesses in the black community, it was not given. Now, President Obama was president at the time. It was not given to black-owned businesses, though we were suffering more than the other businesses. They were given instead to the nonprofits, organizations who squandered the money on luxury cars and houses and fine clothes with very little services to help the community. Millions of dollars squandered. They were given to the nonprofits in the black community. They were not given to any of the black-owned businesses. We applied for some of that stimulus money back then. We got not a dime. And I don't know one black business that was successful prior to this recession or prior to the housing crisis hitting that got any money from that stimulus money. Instead, they were given to the non-profits. When it came to the gays, while President Obama was president, he said gay when he talked about doing for them according to their request. When it came to women, President Obama said women when he addressed their issues while he was president. When it came to the dreamers, President Obama said dreamers when he addressed the issues of the dreamers. And when it came to the immigrants, President Obama said immigrant when it came to addressing the immigrants and their issues. But when it came to the black man, the most loyal American of them all, who has fought and died from Crispus Attucks being the first to fall in the Revolutionary War. When it came to the black man who died in the Civil War, when it came to the black man who was patrolling the South during Reconstruction and was sold out, when it came to the black man in the Vietnam War, when it came to the black man in World War I and World War II, when it came to the black man in the Gulf Wars, when it came to the black man in all the wars this nation has fought, our blood soaks the ground of this planet due to participation in American wars. We have been the most loyal of Americans. But when it came to the most loyal of Americans, the black president, the first black president, says to us when we brought our issues to the table, I am not the black man's president. I am all America's president. And that was the phrase that shut us up and kept us from bringing any issue that was particular to us to the table. And so we're asking the question, who speaks for black men and why are black men going for Trump? So let's talk a little bit about black men and President or former President Donald Trump for a moment. In 2016, a little over 8% of black men voted for Donald Trump. In 2020, a little over 12% voted for Donald Trump. In 2024, of March of 2024, 17% of black men voted for Donald Trump. And just 10 hours ago, the Gen Forward Foundation of the University of Chicago discovered that a full 24% of black men intend to either vote for Donald Trump or someone other than Sister Kamala Harris. And this is since Obama came on the scene and scolded black men for daring to think about voting for someone other than the Democrat put before us. So the question has to be asked, why is the number of black men who are voting for Donald Trump growing exponentially? What is the reason behind this? If you look at Trump's record, you will see that he's been convicted of several crimes, discrimination. He's committed discrimination against blacks in his business dealings. He took out a full-page ad calling for the execution of the Central Park Five, and he never apologized for it despite DNA evidence that exonerated them. He has proven himself callous towards women and their bodies by saying that the government should have control over your body. He has spouted anti-democratic and is willing to dismantle the Constitution according to his own words. He killed the immigration bill that would have reduced illegal migrants to the country, which apparently is an issue, and now is speaking that our country is being overrun by illegal aliens. And his recent statement regarding black immigrants eating the dogs and cats is taxing at best to the soul and insulting at worst. His relationship with white supremacists, as though white supremacists have been before us since Reconstruction. He has an open relationship with them, and Trump is promising black men nothing. Why then is Trump attractive to black men? Now you can just pull a reason out your rear end and say it and put it on the table, but maybe if you took the time to do a little real research, you will discover some real reasons. In 2016, brothers and sisters, Trump asked Black America a very deep question. And I know that seems to be something else to say Donald Trump and deep. But he asked Black Americans a deep question. And the media, which has herded us, has been successful in herding us whichever way it wants us to go, buried the question, and it was never addressed, and we never had a discussion about the question, though black men wanted to discuss this question. Donald Trump asked Black America, what do you have to lose by voting for me? That was the question. What do you have to lose by voting for me? Now, I pondered that question deeply. I didn't just let it go over my head. I thought about the words and asked the question, what do you have? What do you possess? You, Black America, Black man, what do you have? What do you possess that you can lose by voting for me? That was the question he put before us. So when you think about this question, then it prompts you, it should prompt you at least to say, to make an inventory of your possessions that you think you possess. I don't know if you want to deal with it one way or the other, but I would deal with it based on the condition of the Black population when I ask this question. What do you have, brother, that you could lose, brother, by voting for Donald Trump? This was his question. I want you to think about the question. So Black men in 2016, when the question was asked, wanted to discuss the question. We really did. And we tried to discuss it, but we were ridiculed by the media and suppressed by the Black leaders. And they literally pimped us and pumped us down from addressing the question. See, because if this question is addressed, it will cause you to make a real inventory of what you have that you could lose. You see, can you lose the vote? If you are still fighting for a vote, brother, it's not yours to lose. Who else is worried about voting but you? Out of 60 years with a voting rights bill, you still worried about a vote? A vote can come and gone. You still worried about a vote that can come and go and be taken at will? You don't have anything that you can lose. You don't have or possess anything that you can lose by voting this way versus how we have been voting. So that tosses the ball up into the air and allows us to ask a real question. Who is the best candidate for us to vote for? So I want to put a question to you. If the things that I listed about Donald Trump in helping you to deal with this, if they were all true, the crimes he committed, it's assuming all of it was who he is, assuming that. My question to you, would it make a big difference in your condition and outlook for our Black boys and Black men? Would it make a difference in our condition, assuming all that's true? Is our condition any better before Donald Trump and his business dealings? Is our condition any better than it was before he ran for president? Is our condition any better? So the question has to be addressed. What do you have that you could lose? That is the question. And it's not to induce you to vote for Donald Trump. It's to pull you out of the chained position of saying, I got to vote for this guy or that guy. That's what it is. Now, I want to play for you something as I move right through the program so that we can set you up for the Democrats and their dealings with us.
It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first and they put you last. Because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
So the Democrats have been running this thing on us for decades. And we've been falling for it for decades. But there's a problem that they have that they don't tell us. I want you to listen real good to this, what I'm about to say, brothers. The Democrats cannot win without the black vote. The Democrats cannot win without the black vote. And this is the secret that they're keeping from us. This is what they don't talk about as they deal with us. The fact that they cannot win without the black vote. And when they saw scant support for President Biden, they first used fear to try and motivate us. And that fear was in the form of the Trump boogeyman. But Trump his support among black men steadily grew. And the black women were no longer impressed by President Biden, especially after that debate. That literally sealed the doom for the Democrats when President Biden blew that debate. Black men were fleeing away from Biden, and black women were embarrassed. But because the fear factor of Donald Trump had been placed in our minds and pumped in our minds daily, 24/7, we resigned ourselves to reluctantly voting, though assuming we decide to go out to the election. And they knew we weren't going to support him, Biden, in big enough numbers in order to get him the victory. Democrats cannot win without the black vote. But they promise you nothing for it. And this is what Malcolm X said. Malcolm X was trying to warn us, well, wait a minute. Malcolm X was murdered in 64, I believe it was. So if Malcolm X was back in 64 was telling you about the Democrats, and here we are in 2024 and we're still having this discussion. We're voting at a 90% clip for a party that offers us nothing. It don't even discuss any desires that you may have. And so when President Biden blew that debate, they knew that they had to do something, the Democrats, to bring the black vote on or back on board. They needed an issue that would attract a great number of Americans and at the same time not talk about black issues, but attract black people. And this is how Vice President Harris burst onto the scene. She solved two problems. She solved the issue that white women had with former President Trump, and that is the abortion issue. And she was a black woman. Solved two problems. And so this excited black women in particular, but black men took a ho-hum attitude towards this. So a little bit about Vice President Harris. She's a former prosecutor of the state of California. She was a United States Senator. And of course, she's the current Vice President of these United States. She has a stellar portfolio of accomplishments that's impeccable. But Miss Harris, I want you to know it was the black man that kicked those doors down so that you could ascend to that position. As I said, it's the black man that has shed his blood throughout every single war of this nation, and the one that's coming up, they're going to call on us again. That gave you the ascension to the office of the vice president and is now neck and neck with former President Trump for the president of the United States. And so everybody's excited about President Harris, though not enough to really do what they need to do. Her focus, women to white women, and the fear of Donald Trump to black women. But it does not resonate with black men. And as I gave you the statistics at the beginning of the program, you see that the support for Donald Trump is growing steadily among black men. This is the truth. 10 hours ago, 24% supporting Donald Trump. How is that? So when Vice President Harris recognized that she had to stimulate the support among black women, who she calculated in turn would stimulate support among black men, she came to black women and held a conference. But did she come to talk issues to you, black woman? Did she discuss the black family? Or did she discuss your economic situation, your family, your sons, crime, or the condition of education to black people? No, she fed y'all hamburgers and took selfies with you and talked a good game to you and left.
In the mall with her, mama have a ball with her. Somebody call Rihanna, I'm about to draw with her. He with the skate cause he in the wild women. Put the legs on his head, now he loves tall women. You will never catch me calling these men daddy. I ain't lying, grandma, just to make them happy. Lifestyle women, tank fitter. It never happened if the wasn't happened. I'm a hot girl, I do hot. Till the shit come on my outfit. Don't take quick, cause I ain't thirsty. These dudes mad, they wanna hurt me. I'm a hot girl, women put the legs on his head, now he loves tall women. You will never catch me calling these men daddy. I ain't lying, grandma, just to make them happy. Lifestyle women, tank fitter. It never happened if the wasn't happened. I'm a hot girl, I do hot. Till the shit come.
She brought booty shaking to you, sisters. She brought booty shaking to you. Is this what you want your daughters to emulate? Megan Thee Stallion shaking your booty? I couldn't show some of the stuff that was done. She didn't come talking to you about issues. She came with chicken sandwiches, hamburgers, bologna, and selfies. Did not speak to you about issues that are important to you. And so the black man was not impressed, and many black women were not impressed by it. Black women rallied around her, but black men were still registering and expressing a desire to vote for Donald Trump or someone else. So out comes the plan at last for black men.
It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. When you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first, and they put you last. Because you're a chump.
And so out comes the plan for black men at the bitter end, though we have worked and voted to make them first. Malcolm X said it so long ago, they make us last. They've been there 4 years, and out at last, they come and bring the black man a plan. And they just impose on you morsels of what they decide you want. So here's the plan, generally speaking. She comes out with prostate cancer screening, more black men in education and teaching positions. Now that's nice, considering our boys don't want the education being offered to them. The insult of insults is $20,000 to 1 million black men in business loans that can be forgiven. Now, if you do the math, after all this time talking to everybody about you and still you not saying, no, I'm not sure I want that. I'm not sure I trust you on this. They come out with $20,000 in forgivable loans to black businesses. Now, black men, $20,000 would just barely put us at the level of surviving economically to some reasonable degree. And if we go by the record, the money, the $20,000, which comes out to $20 billion spread out across 1 million people. If you do the math, that's all it is, $20 billion. It wouldn't even last a year. And then there's some numbers of $50,000 per billion for 1 million men. But $50,000 is only $50 million spread out across the nation. It's nothing. It is morsels, brother. And more than likely, they would give this money to these nonprofit civil rights organizations, expecting them to divvy it out to you. And we already have their record of what they would do with the money. It's a start, but like I said, this money is spread too thin without a plan, and it would not do much for the condition and the place of black men in this country. So that brings me to the real point I want to make. Now, some of you thinking that I'm sitting here telling you that I support Donald Trump and you should support him too. I'm not saying anything of the sort. But what I am saying is, considering the record of 60 years of voting at a clip of 90% one way, isn't it about time that the black man and the black woman collaborated, put together a plan, and presented it to the candidates? And as they said in the Bible, the one that answers by fire, that's the one that addresses straightforward our issue, what we say we want. And they speak to it like that. Ain't no behind the scenes, under the cover. We're whispering to you, and when you just vote for us, and after it's over, we're going to give it to you. How many times have we been through that? We need a plan. We need a way of implementing the plan, or at least a way of articulating the plan to the government, to all those who are running for president and Congress and Senate, and we present the plan to the entire United States government. And in doing so, black men need a spokesman who has developed a consensus among us to be the one who articulates the plan. Somebody that we trust. Somebody who has a consensus we may not all agree with, but who is it among us that when the call is made, we get up and go? We need somebody that already has a plan in place that can be articulated and that can be implemented among the entire nation. Our brothers, we got to come up out of this in this onesie twosies. It's not going to work. This constant voting for this one or that one is not going to work. Just as this condition that put us here was based on race, we need something that to bring us out of the condition based on the condition that we are in, based on the race and the condition we have suffered. And so as a result of that, we need someone with a program already in place, someone who has developed a consensus among us, someone that we trust, that has never done us wrong, someone who we respond to when the call is made. Now, I am a follower of Jesus Christ. I follow the teachings of Jesus based on the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and A Course in Miracles. That's my religious, if you will, my spiritual guidance system. I don't call myself a Muslim. I don't call myself a Christian. I don't call myself a Jehovah's Witness, though I witness for Jehovah, if you will. All of those titles, I call myself a follower of Jesus according to the Gospels and according to A Course in Miracles. Yesterday was the 29th anniversary of the Million Man March. And this Million Man March, at this Million Man March, almost 2 million of us showed up to this on the mall on a Monday in 1995 in October. And this call was made by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so this is a testimony to the fact that Minister Farrakhan has our ear. Okay? He has our ear. He has proven himself trustworthy. Now, I was not back in the days of Malcolm X, and neither were you. And so we don't really have anything to deal with on those levels, and that's their controversy back there. But what we have today, we see a man of integrity, a man that has told us the truth, a man that has been honest with us, and a man that when he called us to Washington, D.C. on October 16th, 1995, we responded. I think that because Minister Farrakhan has proven himself to be trustworthy among us and has a consensus among us, that's not to say we agree with everything, but you voting for people and putting your life in the hands of people who don't believe nothing you believe or not looking out for you. Why can't you consider a man who has told us nothing but the truth and done everything for the purpose of uplifting us? I believe that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who has a program already in place, should speak to the government on our behalf concerning these matters. So Miss Harris wants to say $50 billion to start. Okay, that's a starting negotiation. You don't let somebody, what do you need? What does your family need? How can we get, I don't care which one of them run our program, as long as they run the program. You got to think broader than bodies. You got to put your mind and understand it from a mental situation. I mean, you've been in this situation voting for the Democrats, and they haven't even bothered to ask you about a program. And when they do give you a program, it's theirs that they concoct and hand into you. And it turns out to be nothing but morsels. So since we got a starting offer of $20 to $50 billion, I say that we allow Brother Farrakhan to run these matters before the United States government. Why would you continue to think you can vote your way to something and never get something out of your vote? Why do you think you can do that? Do we not have their record? The Republicans don't offer us anything. Donald Trump ain't offering us nothing. But let's run a program. $50 billion is a starting number. I say we recruit Brother Farrakhan, who has always made himself available to us. And he is the only one among us who has a consensus. I want to emphasize that word. He has a consensus among us. He has proven himself to us, whether it be Christian, Baptist, Apostolic, Jehovah's Witness, Muslim. He's atheist, gay, transvestite. He has proven himself trustworthy, and we need somebody that can run a plan. It is time out, brothers and sisters, for the yin yang and just voting just because we like Mrs. Harris' pretty face and the fact that she don't sound as harsh as Donald Trump. What good is a pretty face if you don't have a program? What good is having a black skin if the only thing you get is a black skin? What good is it? So to directly answer your question, Sybil, am I a Republican? I can say like Malcolm X says, I'm not a Democrat nor a Republican. And I'm wondering whether or not I'm even an American. I do know that I'm a citizen of the United States. But I'm saying whoever runs our program should get our vote. If they give you a program and say, accept our program, make our program your program, and you know coming out the gate that the program is no good, why would you run their program? So I want to put the word out that in the next few weeks, this is what I got to do. That in the next few weeks, that somebody get the word to the Nation of Islam and ask Minister Farrakhan to run our program. Starting out with the $50 billion offer. We don't want to spread it out so thin that it does no good, because we will be just as broke a year later from not having an understanding of economics as we were before we got the money. We would go out and buy Cadillacs. We would go out. Well, we don't buy Cadillacs no more. Listen, brothers and sisters, we got to have a program. We got to have a program. No more. Your children cannot tolerate another 4 years of this. I can't tolerate another 4 years of this, of miseducation, pimping preachers who pimp us day in and day out, able to get billions of dollars to build big cathedrals right in the heart of the hood, and you walking around raping and robbing, trying to get some food to eat, selling food stamps. to get enough money to pay your light bill. We need a program. The Muslims already got a program, and they've been thinking about us from the time they started. I say, let us, I plan on writing Minister Farrakhan a letter and saying, Brother Farrakhan, Civil say, if you are so worried about that selling wet dreams, I don't understand what you're saying by that, but maybe you might want to explain it. If anybody have any comments, you can go into the chat room. I'll open up the chat room and you can go in there. But the fact of the matter is, we have a national situation going that needs to be addressed nationally. It cannot be addressed piecemeal because it wasn't caused piecemeal. It's got to be addressed on a national level. I happen to be the one who has the gonads enough to think about it and say it. So now Sybil points out in the chat room, a wet dream is something that is not real. That's what America has been selling us for our health care and everything else. So you tell me what the wet dream is. Well, I just spent the last hour telling you what the wet dream is. The wet dream has been the Democrats imposing on us their plan, which is no plan for us. And then when they get down to the bitter end and they see that they still need the black man to vote in record numbers in order to win, they throw out a crumb and pretend like they're going to follow through with it. That's a wet dream. How long have they been doing this? Now, the Republicans, granted, have not been promising anything nor giving anything. Okay? But the Democrats have been doing this for 65 years. And we've been running to the polls, and every year they use fear. Went back in the 80s, it was Reagan. They used Reagan to scare us. Then it was George Bush. They used George Bush to scare us. And since they were comfortable with Clinton, they gave us Clinton. So the Republicans, she asked the question, what do I think the Republicans have been doing? I've said it 3 times. The Republicans haven't been doing anything for us. And anything that has happened to us bad has happened during Democrat and Republican administrations. There has been no difference in our condition, whether it be a Republican in power or a Democrat in power. As a collective body who votes 90% Democrat, we still have not gotten anything. So what if we ran a plan to the Republicans? I don't care if they don't like me. Hell, the man that's charging you for your lights probably don't like you. He might be a Republican. The guy that owns the gas station that you go to get your gas might be a Republican. So why are we all caught up in whether or not somebody like us? I'm not concerned about whether or not you like me. What I am concerned about is the future of my family. That's what I'm concerned about. So now she says, so you mean you're telling me to vote the lesser of 2 evils and we don't have a candidate? What I am saying is put a plan together and run your plan. That's what I'm saying. You are only voting evil if your plan is evil. You're not concerned about anything but your plan. You see, this is a starting point. So we got a $20 to $50 billion starting offer. All right, let's recruit Brother Farrakhan to go and do what he's been doing for the last 60 years, trying to represent us. And let's let him run that. So I get that. I get the social situation. But like I said, that's why we have, because it's so divided that every man for himself, is what this generation is about. I get that. But when you have a program, and I want to keep emphasizing the word program, when you have a program, I believe it was my brother who said piss poor planning, proper planning prevents piss poor performance. So we need a plan. We need a program. $50 billion is a good starting point, but we need a program for it. Don't just let them throw morsels out and they know they're going to get it right back. They know they're going to get it right back. We're going to go buy weed. You know, Dave Chappelle did a skit on that. If black folk got reparations. If you get a chance, go look at Dave Chappelle. It's pretty accurate. What would happen if we got reparations like put in our hands without some kind of program administering it that was designed and implemented by us? You need a program that does not require the permission of the U.S. government to run. You need a program of your own. This is what we want, a program of our own. On the back of the Final Call newspaper of the Muslims, they have that. They have a program outlined. And as I said, Minister Farrakhan has drawn a consensus among us. And I think that he would be the best person to run the program. It's a starting point, Sybil. A starting point. How they say the first, Sybil saying program of power are defined as two different definitions. Okay, that was a semantics. We're voting. We're voting. We're voting, but we're not getting anything for our vote. It's like you go to the store to buy something and you hand the man your money and the item you want, you cannot walk out with. So I'm saying this is a starting point, a step in the right direction to put forth a plan that would allow us to address our own needs as we people. So I want to thank everybody for listening. I know I made it a little long, but again, I'm not saying go over down the front. What I'm saying is let's run a program, get someone who speaks for us, who has a consensus among us, who already have a consensus, and let's do something different. If you keep doing the same thing, don't expect a different result.
Said the lonely man, I don't wanna let go of this feeling. Leave me to roam, said the one